we need to address is, do we want to continue to be involved, since we've got 2 new commissioners, and I probably need to wait till John gets back. Do we want to continue to be involved in public lands issues? Do we still want to go to D.C., go to wherever?
Public land. Well, PILT is kind of public lands issues, but you went to PILT and we were successful. We need to have a big showing back there to keep that going. That's $3 million for this budget.
It's huge. It's enormous. Now, and I think I mentioned this the other night, that PILT has made it through the House appropriations. So now it goes to Senate appropriations, and then they have to sort out the differences.
So right before a vote, then they may schedule that field trip back there right before that
and we
vote.
may need to go, and we have had a great effect on that. The first year I went, it was, well, you're gonna go see your congressional delegation, and my complaint was, I know what our congressional delegation thinks. I've had those conversations with them at different events individually, so I know what they think. We need to be talking to
the other guys,
these other states, and I made that statement in a room with 80 people, 80 other commissioners. And so this last fall, when we went, that's exactly what we did. We went to New Jersey, Illinois, Tennessee, Texas. We went to their congressional delegations and gave our pitch. And as you might expect, there were a number of those people who didn't even know what PILT was. Now, there were those that also knew exactly what it was and were very much in favor of it. So I felt like we had a big effect this last time on PILT. Now, each trip, of course, most of the other states have a tendency to go and talk to their delegations while they're there. Wyoming sits down with the BLM director, with the Interior Department people, with Fish and Wildlife, with Forest Service, and we're sitting just like we are right here, right now, and have those conversations about specific items. So that's what happens back there. Myself, I feel like it's well worth the expenditure. Those are the DC trips are probably the most expensive that we do, but it's because every meal, your room, everything in DC just takes your breath away. And airfares. Our airfares, are 20-25% more than even our trips to Hawaii. DC is horribly expensive to go to. And that's part of the reason I have taken so much money out of my own pocket and put into this line item. I want as many of us to go as possible. The more voices we have, the more likely we are to get something done.
Wyoming has about 20 votes, but we use 10 of them. And so we really need more people to go back there. But it is going to come up lots of issues that affect the state, whether it's coal or oil and gas, let alone the wilderness study areas and those kind of things. So I think it is important.
And of course, we push back on all those, for the counties, for the state, and they're very important issues. It's like our old director used to tell us: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So It's a matter of, do we want to have a voice, and how much of a voice?
I would agree with the comment that I heard you guys make a couple of weeks ago. It said, that basically there had to be a change in the administration, in the president's office before any real change can be made. I was in a meeting, about a year or so ago with a lady who's in the energy department. She's fourth down from President Obama. And she was extremely excited about I think it was Brazil, it would help them become energy independent, right? And they were going to help China with their economy, because a healthier China is a friendlier China, was her belief. And I couldn't disagree more. Coal, Rob, that you mentioned. I mean, that is a problem. But the current administration doesn't think there is such a thing as clean coal, and we're losing a lot of jobs in Wyoming because of that. I was excited to see that excited to hear actually the EPA a week ago came out and announced that fracking doesn't affect the aquifer, doesn't have any effect on clean water, right? So I guess where I'm at, I mean, if we have any issues that need to be heard in Washington D.C., I would prefer that we just spend a little time and just walk across the street, because we can do that. I mean, we're so blessed in Wyoming to be able to walk across the street, and if we can't talk to Cynthia Lummis, we can talk to her staff, and they'll certainly relay the message. Or Brasso is certainly easily accessible, right? And so it would be my recommendation that we go that route, and because I'm just I'm just not seeing the benefit, right? And I think the impression that we as commissioners are giving to the other departments is a poor one, because if we're asking them to be conservative in their travel and training budgets, and we're flying, Washington D.C. and Hawaii, it's just it's not one. So I would put $2,000 as my recommendation for travel budget.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to make comment on anything that they would like. And if we have no public comments, we'll go to the commission. Oh. Please state your name and address for the...
Mr. Chairman, Commission. My name is Jeff Muratori. I live at 3211 South Kaufman, Casper. I've been a resident in Casper for 53 years. I'm invested in Wyoming and Natrona County. I spoke with the chairman today on the phone briefly. I've come to find out that the commission donated $1,000 to the American Lands Council. And it rather upsets me that you're using our tax money to promote a representative from Utah in his quest to get all federal lands transferred to the state. Now, we can have a discussion about the merits of state lands versus federal lands, and I'd be more than willing to speak with any of you about this. But I just want to share with you my disappointment that the commission gave him the money, and you are now what is considered a bronze member of the American Lands Council. Congratulations. I don't want to see this happen again as a voting member of the community, a sportsman, a recreationist, a father, a grandfather, because I've dealt on a personal and a specific level with the state. I've attended BLM meetings on travel management. I've gone to Forest Service meetings. I know what it is to deal with the federal government and the state government when it comes to land issues. And the transfer of lands from the federal government to the state, while it may be bountiful in money, is not bountiful for the people of the state of Wyoming. That's my opinion, but, so anyway, before you see this in the newspaper, I just wanted to come before the commission and let you know how I felt about this.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Muratori?
I just have a comment. From Mr. Muratori, I mean, it's significant, your comments that you said you're invested in the community, I think as we all are. And what your comment is that you've been here for 53 years, right?
Yes.
So you know Wyoming,
Yes.
right? You've been here a long time?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's my point. I believe that Wyoming lands should be managed by people that live in Wyoming. Okay? That's why I believe that the state knows best how to manage Wyoming lands versus the federal government. Right? Somebody that lives here, in my opinion, has much more land management acumen than somebody that works in an office in Washington, D.C.
And how much of a land user are you, Commissioner Keating?
Not quite a bit.
What do you do on the public lands of Wyoming?
Well, public lands, the BOR, I spend a lot of time at the lake, with my family. I take hikes on trails, at times, and I've been in Casper all my life. So
Okay, well, obviously, you don't seem to know some of the differences between state land and BLM land. Can I enlighten you? On state land, you're not allowed to camp overnight. On state land, if it's cultivated, you're not allowed to enter that land to hunt. You can't have a campfire on state land. You can't even take your barbecue grill out on Hat 6 Road and have a picnic with your family on state land. Now, there's a difference. There's a difference between how state lands are managed and federal lands are managed. Trust lands are managed for the good of the trust, for money. Sportsmen, recreation, the people are on the bottom of that list. So, would I like the state to manage our lands? Yes, if the state managed our lands for the people, not for the money. Because I know the state would probably make more money. But let's not kid ourselves here. The state of Wyoming couldn't afford to take over these federal lands right now anyway. The governor herself admitted it was probably illegal. And what's going on in Cheyenne is a $75,000 funding of a study to manage, not take over ownership of federal lands. That's the difference. American Land Council is strictly after taking over the federal lands. And I might add, Ken Ivory is now under investigation for fraud. Basically, your $1,000 just funded him. That's what that was all about. So, as you can see, it does upset me, but I am always open for conversation. And the conversation on the state of Wyoming managing some federal lands is one we should probably have. The ownership, another story. So, I would just hope that this commission would think twice before it gives money again to a group like the American Lands Council, which is basically Ken Ivory. That's all it is. I've heard his speech. I've seen his snake oil. I've seen it. I've been there. I talked to him. He would not discuss with me when I challenged him. When he told me that we weren't harvesting timber on our federal lands, I told him, that's funny because when I had a moose permit down in the snows last year, they had signs up on the roads that we had to get out of the way of the logging trucks. And he was talking about how we don't cut timber on the forest. Well, that's just not true. So, again, it just disheartens me to see that the commission approved that money to the American Lands Council. Now, if it was to the state of Wyoming to look into a study on managing, that's a different story. So there's a distinct difference between the transfer of lands and the managing of those lands. And I guess that's my biggest concern.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
When you've been here so far. Mr. Chairman, a month ago, the other thing he listed as new evidence was the benefits of this industrial park. he gonna stand here and tell this Board of Commissioners that when he first presented before you, diligence, is that, correct me if I'm wrong. I jotted down the five things that Mr. Tyler listed as new evidence. Number one was the concerns of the residents. Now, there was concerns 2 years ago when they were rezoning out there. Does it not seem like due diligence would have been going out and kind of checking with the residents before they put in the zoning application and try to resolve some of these issues in advance? He said the petition was new evidence. Had he done the due diligence of checking, seeing, testing the waters with the area property owners, I don't think that petition would have been a surprise. I've been told that they've even almost doubled the number of signatures on that since last week. 98 land use plan, he offered as new evidence. This seems like that if you're going to develop an area, you might want to know what the land use plan was for that area. That's not new evidence, at least not my opinion. History of the zoning in the area. Again, you have an experienced developer. This is, due diligence gives you all of this. This does not fall under, in my opinion, does not fall under or meet the level of new evidence. The other thing he listed as new evidence was the benefits of this industrial park. Is he going to stand here and tell this Board of Commissioners that when he first presented before you, he had no idea what the benefits of this were going to be? That's not new evidence. You know, he should have made that argument then. Okay, so I guess based on those 5 points of new evidence that he presented, I just honestly can't see it is considered to be new evidence. Again, my opinion, but that's the decision that you as board members have to make. A couple of things I wanted to tell.
I mean, if I can do it, okay, I'll be quick. Will these grants be used to further bureaucracy?
The grant is to develop a comprehensive economic development strategy. And that is to develop any kind of bureaucracy as the guidance document, and nothing more.
But you're granting money for people to come forward and create a business, aren't you? To go out and...
I'm going to lean on Mr. Edwards here again. Is that good?
Yeah. Now, the purpose of the grant is an opportunity for the citizens in the Tacoma County to think about what the future looks like 5+ years out. And so it's designed to help us and the county commissioners and the people in the county to think about what we would look like 5 years from now. So it creates for us a document that we use for our planning, for example, the commission could use for their planning over the 5 years coming out. So it's basically a process by which we elicit information from the citizens of the county.
Okay, and so aren't you granting money, $50,000 to individuals who would like to go out and create to further communication? Misunderstanding.
Yeah, no, we're not. The process is to elicit comment from communities and citizens of the county to help the county think about how we want to move forward over the next 5 years. A component of that may be coming out of the studies and out of the input from the citizens of the county. It may be that they say, gosh, we ought to be looking at these kinds of industries appropriately for the county, those kinds of things. But no, it's not a direct relationship to that.
Then why are you eating our tax dollars?
I'll just stay here if you want.
Okay, that's good. understood.
I believe I adequately answered your question.
Yes,
County, numerous of them, and those numbers are all available.
Okay. The next thing, the next problem I have with the 1 cent funds is I hear about this opportunity fund and I hear about these 1 cent monies to help these folks with the improvement service districts. And I'm sorry, give them 1 cent funds that are meant for an entire county.
To service districts
Just
only.
just for free to small portions of a community is not right. I think if we're going to do something, we give them a low interest loan and they pay the money back. To give them free money, I don't think is right.
So
it's
you
a
object to
loan.
the neighborhood roads project?
Absolutely, and I object to the opportunity to give them a low interest loan and they pay the money back.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I think if the public didn't make such a big thing about it, it would have been back by now.
Aren't you elected to serve the public? I mean, everything I read about government, and I love my government, I am passionate about the founding fathers and what was given us. Our system of government in America is miraculous. It is truly miraculous. And you represent the people. And I have a bad back. And it's hard for me to bend over. Now, excuse me, I apologize for that. I wish I didn't have a lower back problem. But there are people come before you with their whole livelihood was put into purchasing their property. What they have to address you with is the foundation of their life. What is here before you is beyond extremely important. And I just can't put it in words. I don't understand the lack of communication here. I just don't understand it. And people come before you wanting money for projects every week. And you're more than obliging constantly.
Anything further? Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Bergeron?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think it's time that you brought the lectern back. And, Ms. Bergeron has asked several times, she's taken too much time out of her schedule to bring this up time and time again. And she's even asked, she's made the effort to ask that she be put on a work session, and she hasn't been allowed that. It's just fairly apparent by this email. It's, we're all very busy, including Mr. Bergeron, and we need to just settle this issue, turn back, and move on.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I mean, everything I read about government, and I love.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I think if the public didn't make such a big thing about it, it would have been back by now.
Aren't you elected to serve the public? I mean, everything I read about government, and I love my government, I am passionate about the founding fathers and what was given us. Our system of government in America is miraculous. It is truly miraculous. And you represent the people. And I have a bad back. And it's hard for me to bend over. Now, excuse me, You know, I apologize for that. I wish I didn't have a lower back problem. But there are people come before you with their whole livelihood was put into purchasing their property. What they have to address you with is the foundation of their life. What is here before you is beyond extremely important. And I just can't put it in words. I don't understand the lack of communication here. I just don't understand it. And people come before you wanting money for projects every week. And you're more than obliging constantly.
Anything further? Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Bergeron?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's time that you brought the lectern back. And, you know, Ms. Bergeron has asked several times. She's taken too much time out of her schedule to bring this up time and time again. And she's even asked, she's made the effort to ask that she be put on a work session, and she hasn't been allowed that. It's just fairly apparent by this email. It's, we're all very busy, including Mr. Bergeron, and we need to just settle this issue, turn back, and move on.
Any other questions? Thank you. Any other public comments? Mr. Pat, we've been down this road numerous times. It's obvious that we're going to agree to disagree. You have other courses of recourse. We're not going there again tonight.
I do have a question.
We've been over this territory over and over and over. So
You know what you're doing though? This is a public comment section. You should allow people to speak 3 minutes in a public comment section of your meeting. Don't you believe that?
Absolutely, and your 3 minutes are up.
Of your meeting. Don't you believe that?
Absolutely, and your
If there was a conditional use permit being presented, or argued for or against, if you have a commissioner or sitting as a chair.
Your time is up. Your 3 minutes are up.
My 3 minutes, I didn't know we were going 3 minutes tonight already. Did you sign that already?
Oh, yeah.
You just passed it.
And you signed the paper? And Ms. Weasel signed the paper already?
I haven't signed it yet, but it's in.
Well, it's not in effect till it's signed, is it?
That's
As you
correct.
said, we already could enforce these rules, so they are enforced now.
Well, what a nice substitution what you're doing here. And I would gladly point it out to you if you had the courtesy to grant me a couple more minutes.
Your time is up. Thank you.
I see, this is the point I'm making. When you don't like somebody's comments, you tell them to shut the hell up and sit down.
Please sit down.
It's arbitrary control, and it's against the Constitution.
Direct your questions to the chair. If a commissioner asks you a question, Mr. Chairman and then Mr. Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I do have actually a fairly lengthy comment tonight. I didn't pull the contract for the biathlon tonight because I, for the most part, I had my objections kind of cleared up. I kind of object to it, but we'll call it, I don't object to it this year. Next year, I'm going to object to it. There was a news broadcast last week. Our rig count, our current rig count is at pre-World War II levels. Going back through some of the 1 cent funds, I guess I'm befuddled. Looking back, I'm trying to, and I'm going to look at Tracy for this. Do you have a listing of the top priorities for our 1 cent funds?
No.
Of where citizens want that money spent?
No.
I can't seem to find where that.
Can I offer some comments on that?
Sure.
Okay, we have 3.9, roughly 3.9 billion per year in 1 cent fund revenues.
Okay.
When we went to the voters, prior to going to the voters, this was one of the projects that we went to the voters with, and we committed $500,000 of 1 cent funds to this project.
Okay.
So each year then, what became apparent to me was everybody in the 1 cent who asked for 1 cent funds started calling me, when do I get my money?
Right.
So I talked to each one of them and said, well, we only have, remember, we only have a maximum of 3.9 available, and those are projections. So you tell me how much you need each year.
Right.
So each of them broke down their needs for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that sheet that I faxed or emailed to you that has the yearly breakdown of who gets how much each year.
Right.
The first year, I believe the total ask of on demand was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.4 to 3.5.
I'm going to stop you there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Because based on the comment that was made by our county clerk yesterday, her comment was, we have never done it this way before. We have never done it this way before.
All PAD 2781 Cherokee. Well, I guess that was brought up, was it 6 weeks ago when you had the work session talking about the county attorney's raise and editor raise or possibility of them and such. Mr. Chairman, I guess basically I have a question for you directly, and that during that meeting you said that you used the term we. Let me back up. When you started mentioning the raise,
He had a mouse in his pocket.
Keating brought up the point that he thought there was a cap on that. And you made a statement, Mr. Chairman, that you used the term we, investigated that extensively, and Reverend has said that that cap had been removed long ago before Renee was even here. I guess my question is, who was the we that investigated that, looked into that was unable to find that?
That was myself, the county clerk, and the county clerk from Laramie County. We called her because their opinion was different from ours. We thought that we had a cap and we were there. We called Laramie County and asked them specifically, and they said, no, there is no cap. That was removed, and we were going with that information on that day. So that's the we. So there were several of us involved in that investigation. After we made that decision, then Mr. Knight went into the statutes and found where we could not do that. And he has determined that it is very specific and we cannot.
Okay, well, I was just kind of wondering who did supposedly extensive research and was unable to find this in the Constitution and the statutes, either one, so. Okay, thanks.